So Ninja Gaiden 4 is another hit from Platinum Games. This company, they are the ultimate guys to collaborate with. You know, every time Platinum Games collaborates with somebody else, we get something awesome. They collaborated with Kojima Productions because, they were doing Metal Gear Rising, and they were like, okay, we can't get this combat right. Who do we call? Platinum Games. We got Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. It was awesome. They partnered up with Square Enix and Yoko Taro for Nier Automata. The last Nier game before that had really bad combat. So how do we make the combat better in Nier Automata? Who are we going to call? Platinum Games. Then we got Nier Automata, and that was one of the best action RPGs ever made. So once again, Platinum has teamed up with, this time, another really good action game company that already knows how to make really great action, and very often does make really great action games, and that's Koei Tecmo. So now we've got two action powerhouses collaborating, and the result is Ninja Gaiden 4. And it is, make no mistake, whatever criticisms I may have, and I will get to those, Ninja Gaiden 4, let me just say, is the best Ninja Gaiden game to date. When it comes to the 3D, 2004 rebooted Ninja Gaiden games that started back in 2004, this is the best one yet. When it comes to gameplay, when it comes to controls, when it comes to that snappy action that you want from these types of games, it is fantastic. The parrying feels amazing. The dodging feels amazing. The Blood Raven mechanic that was added to this game with the new lead character, Yakumo, is extremely satisfying and really fun to do and incredibly visceral, and adds so much more to the combat, especially with the 4 base weapons that you can switch back and forth between throughout the game. The bosses are the best boss fights ever in a Ninja Gaiden game. They're extremely well designed, extremely satisfying to fight, even when you have to fight them a couple more times in the later half of the game. It's just extremely satisfying action game. Even the traversal, even just like the wall running and jumping around and gliding and all the stuff that you do in this game, all the traversal stuff. And the traversal stuff in past Ninja Gaiden games was never necessarily bad, but even that feels better than ever in Ninja Gaiden 4, especially when you're like rail grinding on the subway rails, and you gotta like dodge the trains that are coming at you, and all that stuff is just extremely satisfying and snappy as hell. This game just feels incredible to play. So let me just get that out of the way. It is absolutely worth playing for that reason alone. It looks great too. It looks stylish. It looks sharp. I've heard some people complain about the visuals, but again, I don't care if it, on the technological side, is not the most impressive looking thing ever. Artistically, I think the game looks pretty great, even if it's maybe a little lacking in environmental variety, but again, we'll get to that. But again, overall, great action game. If you just want a really sharp as hell, snappy as hell, super challenging but very, very fair and very precise action game from Platinum, you're gonna get that. And if you just want another visceral, violent Ninja Gaiden game that is so much better than Ninja Gaiden 3, which was the worst game in that series, then you should not be disappointed. I certainly wasn't. So that brings us to the faults, because for all the praise I'm giving to the combat and the gameplay and just the general look and feel of the game, we do have to talk about the strangely anemic vibe of this game, just kind of the way it presents itself. And I'm not talking about graphics. I'm not talking about how it presents itself visually. I mean how it presents itself as a package, and I do think there's something strangely kind of, I don't know, like I said before, anemic. That's the word that comes to mind, anemic. Ninja Gaiden 4 just feels a bit anemic. Part of that comes from some more obvious stuff, like the lack of environmental variety. There's not a whole lot of level variety in this game. A lot of people complained about that. I don't think it's the biggest issue this game has by any means, but It's definitely noticeable. I do think the environments that are there look nice. They look crisp. They look sharp. The game does run on Unreal Engine 5, and it does look super nice. But yeah, there is something strangely uh, minimal about the game's level variety and stage variety, especially compared to like Ninja Gaiden, the original Ninja Gaiden in 2004, and Ninja Gaiden 2 especially had a ton of level variety. Um, I do like the environments that are there. Like I said, the neon-soaked, kind of rainy, futuristic Tokyo that you're running around for much of the game looks really cool. I really dig the atmosphere and the aesthetics. But, then you get like some misty cliff sides, and that's fine. It's a little Sekiro-esque. It looks kind of cool, but then like after that, there's like a cave with like glowing crystals everywhere. It's like, okay, it's all right. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil it all, I guess, but there's some nightclub-looking areas that are kind of cool, I guess, um, if slightly lacking in context. But there's not a whole lot of level variety, is what I'm saying. Like, what's there, just it doesn't offer like a huge variety of like color palettes or different aesthetics or vibes. Like, but again, what's there does look cool, and I like the idea of like how most of the game is set in and around or underneath this kind of post-apocalyptic looking futuristic Tokyo with the big dark dragon corpse hanging above it. And it's like, okay, that's all cool, but there are other issues. There are bigger issues, namely the fact that like when it comes to cutscenes, this type of character action game, like usually you have the slick, super awesome action that you control, and then there's like you're usually rewarded like in between chapters with like really cool cutscenes, where characters are just being awesome. They're just doing things in between the combat stages that you, the player, can't do. And you just want to see, sometimes you just want to see your characters just do cool shit, right? And I'm not saying there aren't some cool cutscenes in this game. It's just that even the cool ones we get are surprisingly minimal. They just don't, there's not a whole lot of them, and they don't showcase these characters as much as I would like. Now, to be fair, again, Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 are not story-heavy games. They're not super dialogue-heavy or anything, and cutscenes, tend to be more about just looking awesome. But again, even in Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, I feel like there were more memorable moments in between chapters and stuff where you just see characters doing cool shit, or you just see these really cool moments with the villains doing cool shit and plotting, and it's just like, you get like these moments that you just expect, whether it's Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, or the older Ninja Gaiden games. There was always that sense of like, oh, I beat this chapter, here's a cool cinematic moment that will just add a little flavor to the game, and it feels like a reward. It feels like a nice bookend to those long gameplay sections. And those might not sound essential, and yeah, to the core game, it's not essential, but it does add up. It does add up to a feeling of, this game doesn't have a lot of those moments. And the moments that are there, they just feel a little fleeting, It's like, one of the big key story elements of this game is you're playing as this new ninja named Yakumo, and he does come to clash with the old guard, Ryu Hayabusa, the old ninja guy from past Ninja Gaiden games. And you would think this would be treated a bit bigger, like, their clashes would be cooler and more. When you do finally get to fight him as a boss, it is a really cool boss fight, sure. But that's like everything else in Ninja Gaiden 4. The best moments really are just gameplay. And everything outside of that always feels surprisingly lacking. They just don't. And even on the gameplay front, there's some shortcomings. Like, Ryu Hayabusa does get a playable section in this game, and it's not too far off from what Devil May Cry 4 did, where you played the first half of the game as Nero, and eventually you took control of Dante. The problem is, unlike Devil May Cry 4, where at least when you did take control of Dante, and one of the biggest problems with that game was how it was when you played as Dante, it was recycling everything that Nero already did, so you were fighting the same bosses, going to the same areas. But one silver lining to that was that when you took control of Dante in Devil May Cry 4 and had to go through all that recycled stuff, at least you had totally new movesets, and Dante felt way more powerful and versatile, and he had way more attack variety and movesets than Nero did, so you felt more OP, it felt like a reward. Getting to Dante felt like a reward. You were stronger, you had more combat variety, and you could do so many different things. And unfortunately, in Ninja Gaiden 4, and I don't know why this is, I thought getting to Ryu Hayabusa would be a really cool moment. I thought, okay, this is the OG ninja, right? He's going to be like super powerful and have all sorts of cool shit. And when you get to Ryu Hayabusa, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I was a little underwhelmed. I was like, I kind of want to go back to Yakumo. Yakumo had the Blood Raven form. He had the Blood Raven mechanic, and it's this super cool mechanic that allows you to pull off incredible finishers and incredible attacks, and each, depending on one of the 4 weapons you're using as Yakumo, because he has access to 4 different weapons, those weapons will do different things when you go into Blood Raven form. So not only do you have like this game's version of Devil Trigger from Devil May Cry, but you also have different weapons that will provide different attack finishers and special attacks. So like Yakumo has so much to offer when it comes to combat. And then you switch over to Ryu Hayabusa, and the only thing he has to replace that is like a variety of different ninpo attacks, which he did kind of have in past Ninja Gaiden games. So I guess it's consistent, but I couldn't even pull those off. I didn't even know if I was pulling them off properly. It didn't feel as intuitive as the Blood Raven mechanic that Yakumo had. And Ryu Hayabusa only has 1 weapon to play with. He only gets 1 weapon. I know that there's already DLC coming out in the future, but I'm talking about this game, this launch game. And like, I was kind of shocked at getting to Ryu Hayabusa. Now, in all fairness, his section is very short. Very short. Like, he fights a couple of bosses that you already fought as Yakumo, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't get much to do compared to Yakumo. So, like, it's kind of hard to complain about it too much, because at least I don't spend too much time playing as him. But it's only cool in context. It's like, oh, cool, I'm playing as Ryu Hayabusa now. But his gameplay, even though it's not bad, feels so much more limited to me than Yakumo that I was like, this feels like a downgrade. So it was kind of weird. That felt like a low point in the game to me. It felt kind of strange. His section almost felt tacked on, I'm sad to say. I actually think Yakumo's sections and Yakumo as a character is a lot more fun to play as, which might sound sacrilegious to old Ninja Gaiden fans, but I'm just being honest. And I like Yakumo as a character, I'll even go so far as to say. I know whenever it's common in gaming for gamers to complain, oh, a new character is taking up the mantle, a new guy, it's not the old guy, and it's like, man, I don't give a shit. If I like this new character, I don't need it to be the same protagonist forever. I don't have that attachment. I've never been that way. As far back as like Raiden, showing up in MGS2, like, I've never been that guy. I just don't care. When Nero showed up in Devil May Cry 4, and you played as him for most of the game instead of Dante, it's like, so what? It's another silver-haired guy. It's not that much different, guys. Like, what? Who cares? And yes, I know Nero and Dante are different characters. I'm just saying. I don't mind new. I don't mind having new characters. And Yakumo is cool. I like his attitude. I like that he's kind of always in a shit mood. Like, he always treats his missions as like something that, like, he doesn't want to bother with. Like it's a job. Which might make him sound unpleasant, but it kind of works for me in this game. I kind of like his taking no shit, no nonsense attitude. But he talks a lot more than Ryu Hayabusa. Hayabusa was always just like a very almost mute ninja. Like, he was very, very stoic. And it's kind of refreshing to have a character in these games that is a lot more chatty. And speaking of chatty, I mentioned it in my last Ninja Gaiden video, but like I really like how you have Metal Gear style like codec chatting going on in the background over a radio every time, all throughout the game. I like that. That's actually cool. I like all the characters and the voice acting. The problem is, and this is another criticism, is that you don't really, outside of Misaki, the scientist guy, who I won't spoil it here, but there's a twist involving him that's a little bit of an ass pull, but he's kind of, up until a certain reveal, he's basically like the game's Otacon. And he gets a character model, and he gets actual cutscenes, although not many. And then there's this cute ninja girl named Umi that supports you. And she's always talking through your save terminals, or shops, or whatever they are, that you find throughout the game. And you never see her. She never has a character model. We never even like cut to her in a control room or anything from like their Ninja HQ or wherever she's calling from. And the game even has like a character bio thing in the menu screen. And when you go to that, everybody else has an image except Umi. It just shows a picture of the terminal she speaks from. And I'm like, did this game not have enough budget? Like, what was the problem? Why does this cute new ninja girl, in a series famous for cute ninja girls, by the way, I might add, why does she not get a character model? And the only thing I can think of is they either did not have enough budget or didn't have enough time. Maybe the game wasn't given enough time, because there are aspects of this game like that just feel kind of rushed. Everything on the gameplay front, everything on the combat, the bosses, feels like they put a lot of time in that and a lot of effort, and that was all the focus. But when it comes to everything else, it's a real case of like, all the thrills are there, but there's no frills. You know what I mean? It's an all thrills, no frills affair. In that all the peripheral stuff is lacking, like severely lacking. Like the only character we get to spend a lot of time with in this game, the only like, cute female character. And again, this is a Koei Tecmo game. This is a Ninja Gaiden game. It's set in the same universe as DOA. And the only cute girl we get is Sayori, and she does get a lot of screen time. She's beautiful, and I love her, and I want to marry her. But anyway, she's actually a relatively well-rounded character, too. She actually does have a decent little arc. It's not, like, the greatest thing ever in storytelling, but it's the one thing this game has when it comes to any kind of story depth whatsoever, because even for a Ninja Gaiden game, again, I know people say, oh, Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, they don't have a lot of story stuff either, and that's true, but they always had more presentation, At the very least, the story in those games presented more. It made more cool, stylish gestures, you know what I mean? This one doesn't even have a lot of that. It couldn't even be bothered to do that, and it's like, it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of surprising. I want to see Umi, damn it. Put her in the DLC or something. And while we're at it, there is the only other famous ninja girl from Dead or Alive and the first two Ninja Gaiden games, Ayane, is barely in this game. She gets a new design and everything. We don't get to play as her. We barely see her in any cutscenes. She shows up almost like the cameo is almost a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. And it's like you went through the trouble of giving her a new design and everything, and she's barely in the game. It was so disappointing. Barely in the game, guys. The purple-haired vixen that don't need fixin' is barely in the game. I'm a little sad about that. I'm even more salty that she wasn't playable, to be honest. I mean, maybe I was expecting too much with that. But, like, Ryu Hayabusa, again, like I said, isn't even as fun to play as in this game to me as Yakumo and all of his new shit. So, like, the fact that we don't even get Ayane, I would have been happy with, like, one level. But she doesn't get anything. It's like, I just think about it this way, like, compared to, like, Devil May Cry 5 when that came out, and that was a big comeback for the Devil May Cry series, right? Kind of like this is the first true, like, comeback game for Ninja Gaiden in a long time. You look at, like, what a celebration Devil May Cry 5 was of, like, everything Devil May Cry related. All the characters showed up. We had Trish and Lady and all that stuff. and it felt like the story felt like a big culmination of everything that had come before. Ninja Gaiden 4 is just really lacking by comparison. It doesn't feel as big of a celebration of Ninja Gaiden, you know what I mean? Now, for what it's worth, there are cool moments. Like I said, when you finally fight with Ryu Hayabusa, it's a really cool battle. Uh, I do like Yakumo as a character. I love the whole Dark Dragon storyline. I love the fact that you finally get to fight the Dark Dragon. Maybe this is a light spoiler, I don't know, but you finally get to fight the fucking Dark Dragon. The big part of Ninja Gaiden lore that has always been like kind of just this background thing. You know, the very first game was all about, oh, the Dark Dragon Blade. Oh, you can't let that fall in the wrong hands. The Dark Dragon Blade. It was like a MacGuffin in the first game. And it's like, now we literally get to fight this Dark Dragon. This bitch that has been mentioned constantly throughout the series. And we finally get to fight a literal Dark Dragon. And it's actually really cool. All the bosses, like I said, are awesome. And, like, the gameplay knocks it out of the park. The story, like I said, I actually like it conceptually. I just wish they had done more with it on the presentation side. I wish they had done more with it with characters, with character moments, because there's just not much there. You know, and I know there's DLC coming out in the future, and I don't know how much that's going to add to the experience, but man, I would love a playable Ayane. I would love just more character shit in this game, because, you know, like I said, it's never been the deepest series when it comes to writing or characters or stories, sure, but still, I feel like this game needed more of that. You know, even for a Ninja Gaiden game, this needed more of that. And so, I guess that's it. That's my review of Ninja Gaiden 4. It's still a fantastic action game. It delivers. It delivers where it needs to the most. It is extremely fun to play. It is addictive. It is satisfying. Super fast-paced. But, man, it's... There are elements of it that just felt like it needed more time in the oven. You know what I mean? When it comes to the context, you know, and the characters, and like, I just wanted more. There just wasn't a lot, you know, outside of, but as an action game, it's a full experience. It's a full experience. It's very replayable. You get a chapter select after you beat it. You can switch back and forth between Ryu and Yakumo as much as you want. Like, there's plenty of reasons why I will be coming back to this game, regardless of what it lacks. But yeah, that's my review of Ninja Gaiden 4. What do you guys think? Did you enjoy the game? Let me know in the comments how you feel about Ninja Gaiden in general. And until next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.